going to be in honors for sure. I mean, we've got some pretty heavy hitters at our school. And look at that, and I'm thinking, okay, does this kid fit in with these other kids? Is he smart enough? Can he handle it, the work and everything else? And I could only come up with about 7 names, really. You know? And it's not so matter as a kid being gifted, but just in that class, you've got to be somebody that organizes your work, works really hard. There's some smart kids that just wouldn't compete in that class. You know, it's a very honors symposium kind of thing, which seems to be the exact opposite of what our school was intended to be, but we're doing it.
Well, the other side of that is that you're not, in a sense, being a... Well, all right, are you being a gatekeeper? Perhaps, because what you're doing is you're protecting the group, and you're protecting each individual by having that kind of standard, rather than just let people...
Every kid should be entitled to that kind of... well, that's not to say the alternative classes aren't good, too. You know, this isn't a win or lose thing. It's just there's a class that's being designed. I don't know. It just it's a nice class in that we've got some very smart kids that are being held back. See, there really is a doctoral thesis here.
Well, no, it's by their performance. It sounds like if they are not performing, even though they're smart, that means that they just have to up their effort.
Even some kids that are really good at turning everything in, but in class they won't participate. Or, you know, they're really hard workers. They're intelligent, but they're not super bright. There's a lot of stuff that they just don't grasp. They kind of will skate over. I mean, there's some kids that are just geeky, but not geeky enough.
You can get an A in a preliminary class and then not be invited into an honors class.
Exactly right.
You can get a B in a preliminary class and still get invited in.
Sure.
And so the key, I think,
is... I did that with one kid, as a matter of fact, today.
I think...
But I've got parents that are complaining, like you said, my kid is good. I said, yeah, my kid is good, but doesn't meet the criteria for that class. And I said, there's only 15 openings in that class, and they're filled.
Right. And so get used to this.
You're supposed to be student centered. I said, well, we've got this class, and then I always, I'll slide back. I'll say, the alternative class is a very, very good class as well. It's project-based learning. It just isn't going to quite operate at the speed that these guys are going to be going through, and they're going to be covering exactly the same subject matter, but in slightly different ways. Damn. But they don't, all they see is honors. Parents want that label.
Sure.
You could have the most ridiculous class in the world. I think if you called it, the class for smart people, every single parent would want to have their kid in there no matter what was going on in that class.
Oh, but what about the honors class? No. I want the smart people class.
Exactly.
Even though it was slower.
Future leaders and successful kids class.
Oh, that's the C from Perot, Ross Perot. That's the Ross Perot story.
Really?
Well, he goes to Harvard. He says, I want all the A's and B's. You stand up. You guys have done a great job. Okay, now let's give them all a round of applause. Now look around you. The guys who are sitting down are going to be the owners of the company, and they're going to tell you what to do.
That's funny because I had a professor at Michigan did the first day thing where he said, look to your left, look to your right. He goes, with 3 of you sitting there, he goes, 2 of you are not going to finish this place in 4 years. And there's a pretty good chance one of you will never finish ever at the University of Michigan. And then he said, here's the deal. Professors here have learned you be really nice to the A students and you be respectful to the B students, but you kill the C students because those are the guys that get the libraries named after them. I thought that was a great line.
Right, because it's a difference between the knowledge accumulators and those that have these social skills.
Yeah.
And the social skills tend to be the ones that organize the large systems.
That's great.
I love that story.
Let's get to our C students. I should throw them in the honors class.
Yeah. So just to wrap up that one story about the gatekeeping, etc.
Yeah.
The flipped classroom seems to offer some sort of permeability because you could technically start the year off in the lower or less rapid area and be monitoring what's happening in the higher level and eventually work your way in. Because if you put the effort in, right, and you were able to actually, you wanted to get into that honors class, you could, in a flipped classroom, because all of the lectures are recorded and the syllabus is open.
Yeah, Steve, here's the reality. High school kids don't go there. High school kids go to Spark Notes, and they want to just knock things out.
Right.
For projects, they wait until the very last minute.
Right.
Talking about ninth graders this year.
Sure.
There's many of them don't know how to do effective web searches. Those are things that we're teaching this year.
Right.
Making a decision based on facts, bringing evidence into your arguments. It's basic kind of things that, I just took for granted that every kid had.
Because,
so I taught at a really good school.
Right.
44 middle schools we draw from, there's only a couple of schools that are sending us kids that are ready for high school.
Well, they've got good grades, but they're not ready for high school.
Well,
That's
all
the
the kids
difference.
got good grades.
Yeah.
But there's only a couple of schools that are actually doing a good job of preparing kids for our school.
Right. There's no connection between grades and readiness.
This year, we all got together, and these, marvelous lesson plans, all drawn out, totally interdisciplinary and everything else. Well, look, each other said they're not ready for it.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
Developmentally, we in every single area had to go back to remediation of basic skills.
Sure.
Well, they've got it now, and we're doing some pretty neat stuff with them. But at the beginning of the year, Steve,
well,
it was...
it's what many colleges are finding. You have to do remedial work because they come out of high school not ready for college.
Right. The colleges with the zero-level classes, where they come in just so they can get their skills up to the point where they can actually write a college-level paper.
Right.
That's ridiculous. And, I teachers today, next year I got mandated that in our school, every single kid is going to do a National History Day project.
Oh, mandated?
And in that requires writing a process paper, annotating your sources, doing original research. Just all the kinds of things you think every kid takes for granted. When you think of education, you just take it for granted that every kid is learning that. Well, they don't.
So you're going to the problem I find with mandates is that it puts everyone through a box and they all have to run down that chute.
That's the beauty of this one. National History Day is the most wide open, interdisciplinary, wide-ranging, and I've always made up my own rules that if something doesn't fit a category or something, I'll say go for it. You just can't enter it in the county competition. We'll still give you grades here.
Oh, there you go.
We've modified it, but there's something for performances, which includes dance, any sort of the performing arts at all. There's if a kid wants to write a serious paper, there's historical paper. They can do websites, they can do documentaries, exhibits, and the exhibits aren't science board shit. These are real kind of, by the time they get to state, they look like they belong in museums. Then all the research that goes into it, finding the little story, sticking to the theme, having judges judge you, and you have to answer questions, defend why you did things that you did. Okay, so this is quality stuff, and every single kid can find some area that would interest them. Oh, you can do it group, you can do it individually too. Okay, if there isn't something there for every kid, then there's something wrong with that kid, and I mean that.
Okay, so this is a case where
the topic, this year's theme topic is turning points in history. You have to find some way to relate it to turning points in history. So let's say you're the science geek, and you could say, okay, 1957 discovery of the transistor. That's the turning point in history that I'm going to examine. You'll lay it out, boom, there's your project.
So it's sort of like saying everybody get wet rather than saying everybody has to swim 50 yards in this particular pool. They could run to the tap and splash water on them. They're still
here's the beauty of this
immersing themselves.
Is that all the teachers are helping these kids pick their subjects. So if somebody in math wants to find some way to write, like Eratosthenes, turning point in history when he determines the size of the planet, okay, or how about why it wasn't a turning point in history, that is employing some serious math. Eratosthenes, all he did was, use some sticks, some shadows, and a measured... guy that he paid to walk from Alexandria to Syene, and he figured out to within a couple of 100 miles the circumference of the globe. That's pretty good for 250 BC.
Darn straight.
And that's the kind of perfect project. So you could have your math kid looking at that, all kinds of problems in math. My God, Fibonacci would be a great thing. But just there's something there for everybody, and that's going to be one of our unifying themes next year.
That is wonderful news. Well, this has been a wide-ranging report, and thank you very much for your time.